Hello and welcome back to a new Kerbal Space Program video and a lift-off as per usual, more or less at least. So it has been quite a while since the first episode in this installment, or whatever you want to call this, where we've launched a small space station to Duna. Now it's time for the follow-up, aka the cruise ship, or just this general episode, as probably the title suggests, is more or less the first real, in one way the first real episode, and the previous episode was a kind of precursor, kind of prequel, whereas this is now the main thing, well, the first part of the main mission. Okay, we're gonna build and send to Duna our colony ship slash, it's more an exploration ship and not a colony ship. I'm not quite sure why I came up with the idea of a colony ship, but anyhow, so we're building here a nice exploration ship, kind of an exploration Duna type of mission, like we already did, I think twice, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, but anyways, we're going to go now with new tech, new insights that we've gained in the previous missions, and all the other things that we've explored throughout the Kerbal system. We can now utilize all that gained knowledge and experience to do a better and, I don't know, more Kerbal mission. Not quite sure what that's supposed to mean, but anyhow. So, the launch we had, which we already lost two boosters on the side, which are feeding into the central core, which is a mammoth engine. So 3 meter parts, kind of the core is 3 meter core, so that means our payload is not that super duper heavy, so that we don't require to use the 5 meter part from the Making History DLC pack. And this is also something I kind of went with a general notion. Same goes actually for the previous space station mission. I on purpose did not do any kind of ridiculous rocket, you know, like you can do in Kerbal Space Program, like those ludicrously big rockets or a ludicrous big payload, and you just strap on boosters until you can get it into space. Something along those lines. No, we're just going to go with something sensible, so that's more or less kind of the underlining theme of these missions here. Anyhow, we've had a very good ascent with the first stage, so that we actually only used around half of the fuel of the circularization stage, which we did just prior of hitting a stable orbit, and we have completed now our orbital insertion with the nuclear engines, which are obviously part of the propulsion stage and the main stage. Then we quickly, did a small little turn order for the nose cone that we detached as well, not to crash and destroy one of the radiators. And this is our main part, or our main transport slash interstellar craft. Now we are actually back on the launch pad, going to select the colony ship, or like I said, I'm not quite sure why I've called it like that, but anyhow, like the exploration ship in that is now parked in low Kerbal orbit, if I'm correctly remembering things, a 80 by 90 kilometers orbit, so periapsis of 80 and apoapsis of 90 kilometers. We've waited until it's more or less halfway between the desert to the west. I apologize for that. To the desert west of the Kerbal Space Center and the Kerbal Space Center itself, kind of halfway there. And then we've launched with our second rocket. So this time we don't have two large boosters around the 3 meter core with the mammoth engine in the middle, but we have 4 small little liquid fuel tanks that had a hammer, no, not a hammer, no, I think it's the hammer, like the not the smallest but the second SRBs, just to have some lift-off thrust and have some additional fuel. Actually, in the end, I'm kind of overestimating the amount that we actually need to get into orbit here by quite a lot. So, like in the previous time, we had pretty much half of the what is it, the 3 meter thing, the mammoth, I think. Half of the mammoth engine's fuel was not burned, and now spoiler alert, we're not going to use the actual space tug we have here a space tech inside the fairing. You'll see that in a minute, I think. Maybe 1.5. I'm quite sure, it doesn't show me exactly here. But anyhow, you'll see what I mean in just a few minutes. But the general kind of the core stage, the 3-meter stage, is the same. I kind of thought that would be sensible. Actually, something I do like about this kind of design, aka the payload adapter, one might call it maybe. We're using a adapter, a 3-meter to 5-meter adapter, but the other way around. So that's kind of a novelty. It kind of reminds me of the I'm not quite sure what's called, the Atlas. No, I think it's the Dell. I'm not quite sure, like the rocket where the space liner, like the Boeing's space liner, had its first and I think second test flight. Was not on the SLS, but then on another rocket. I just can't remember the name. But it had also kind of a a smaller diameter central core, and then the upper stage connecting to the capsule kind of got wider. So yeah. Anyhow, I actually wanted to talk about the bloody rendezvous and not that thing. But anyhow, so getting off topic here. So we because we've launched at a specific time compared to the craft that we were trying to rendezvous with, we were able to kind of get this encounter by reaching AMPWAP system. That's kind of the entire idea of timing our launch correctly. Obviously, but we had not quite a immediate perfect encounter by matching speeds and everything. So we were drifting apart again. Like our closest encounter with 1.7 I think kilometers. Now we were drifting apart to 3 point something, and then we just did the regular thing, which that's when we hit orbit, and then we were just now doing the relative thing, kind of cancelling relative velocity, then burning towards the target, closing in. That's pretty much the entire idea. Now we're closing in 400, 300, 200 meters. Now we're going to pretty much get to a standstill with our like I said, orbital insertion stage, which still has, what is that, like a quarter or so of fuel. Now you can see maybe that, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Now you can see between the two landers, which we are now going to dock, two fuel tanks on the sides, and then the RCS array. That was actually the space tug that was supposed to rendezvous. But anyhow, that's not that important. Now the more important part are these two landers. So we have two identical landers here, which are now being docked to two opposite sides of the spacecraft. The deep space interplanetary transport system. Ripping off some of SpaceX naming conventions here. So yeah, these two landers have a crew capacity of 2, and the entire ship has the crew capacity, like in theory, for more than 4, but I kind of thought about it with going with 4 Kerbals, so that's why we actually have 4 Kerbals aboard. So if all those 4 can kind of sleep and have a nice time in the hitchhiker storage container, and then the crew capsules that you can see in the front there will be the re-entry modules re-entering back here on Kerbin once the entire mission is over, and that's like 1-3 command pod and a regular Mark 1 command pod. And with that we have a crew capacity of 4 to bring all 4 Kerbals back down, or back home to Kerbin. Whilst the landers both have a crew capacity of 2 each, so that we could, in theory, either do 2 separate missions down to the surface with 2 crew members, or get all 4 crew members down in 2 separate kind of 2 separate landers. So that was the idea behind it, instead of building one large lander. And I wanted to have something to kind of have the capability to go multiple times, like 2 times up and down. Yeah. Now, because I actually forgot during the building of the new spacecraft, like the transfer, like the deep space spacecraft, I forgot to attach a antenna. So we're going to make use of the, well, it's no longer really that new, but still the rather new Kerbal attachment system integration, so that we can use our engineering Kerbal to take away the antenna from the bottom of one of the 2 landers and attach it to the side of the hitchhiker storage container close to the command module, aka the Mark II lander can, which is also included to have more space for the Kubels on the main ship. There you go. Nice! And with that we can now extend the antenna and prepare the craft for its interplanetary voyage. And now we are at a, thanks to the actual new feature, well now this time it's actually the new feature, where I'm using first time the built-in Kubel alarm clock, despite actually having Kubel alarm clock as a mod, which you can see at the very bottom of the right hand stack of icons. But anyhow, I've used it to get I've used the built-in, like the stock Kubel alarm clock to get a transfer window to do now right now, using for the first time, just mentioning. And then I plan pretty much at that point using the other new feature, the maneuver tool planner thingy, to get ourselves an orbit. No, a transfer node instead of doing it manually. It was honestly just trying the new feature out, and it gave me a maneuver node, which was actually 20 or 30 days, 27 days in the future from the actual transfer window. Kind of weird, but anyhow, that's the way it is. And then I decided, okay, well, let's already start raising our apparatuses, because we do have only 4 nuclear engines with this craft, so our thrust weight ratio is not high enough to do it in one burn without actually wasting too much fuel. We do have more than enough fuel, that's for sure, but still I do want to kind of keep the fuel reserves at a reasonable number. But as you can see here on in the menu at the right hand, on the right side there, whatever, you saw that there for some time. It told me that it cannot do a maneuver node, this automatic maneuver node creation thingy, if the orbit is too eccentric, and if you have to split a maneuver into multiple burns in order to burn our periapsis and not burn halfway through your bloody orbit. You don't have any other choice but to split the burn, and that's something the system actually cannot handle. So we're actually back to manual maneuver planning. Boy, what's up with me? So manual maneuver planning. So this maneuver node is planned manually, like we used to do that in the past. What was it, 5 years since Kerbal Space Program? Since I'm playing Kerbal Space Program, 6 years. I'm not quite sure. I mean, yes, the game is now 10 years old. Approaching 10 years, then playing it since, I actually don't know since when. I just know that the point in time where Kerbal Space Program 0.9 beta than ever, such a great name, the beta testing, beta than ever, brilliant, came out. That's pretty much when I started, and that's when the actual KSC became, or started looking the way it's looking right now, like the actual KSC. Anyhow, getting off topic again, we are now we did a normal maneuver node like usual, as per usual. However, like most of the time, at least in my cases, I do have to do a small correction burn of what is that, like 16-ish meters per second, in order to actually get a real encounter, just our close encounter kind of markers. We're very close, so we just do a small little maneuver node here in the middle of the transfer interplanetary space, pretty much like the ascending node, I think, or descending node, like one of those nodes, where we're crossing the plane of the orbit of Duna. That's when we do a small little correction burn in order to get our periapsis nice and close. This time on the right side of Duna, in order to get a nice encounter. Yes, to get a nice encounter and immediately kind of prepare for the orbital insertion at Duna. And with that, pretty much only that burn is left. Now we're leaving the Kerbal system. The Kerbal system. Now we're time warped, aka skipped forward to the maneuver node. Now we're just going to execute this maneuver node, and then we're on our way to Duna. And this will actually conclude today's episode. Like I said, we're only going to do the departure / like the construction and the departure to Duna, and I hope you've enjoyed this so far. And tell me down in the comments below if you want to see something special that we are going to do on Duna. So thanks very much for watching, and until next time, Spaceship signing out.